Welcome to another episode of Soul Refresh. This is your oasis for faith-filled wisdom and encouragement as you live and lead with intention. I'm excited about this episode as we explore how people pleasers can protect their peace during the holidays. The holidays are supposed to be a time of joy, happiness, good tidings, and most importantly, peace. However, the truth is that for a lot of us, the holiday feels like another full-time job. Instead of having the positive feelings, many of us dread this season, as this can be a time when people pleasing, struggling with the expectations of others, and sometimes ourselves, and exhaustion show up for many of us as leaders. If you're already tired walking into December, and maybe even tired before Thanksgiving rolled around, you are not alone. And I want you to know that you're not failing. So let's dive into today's episode. People pleasing isn't about being nice. It's actually at the root of it, it's about avoiding discomfort. In a previous episode, I shared the definition of people pleasing. And I shared that it is actually someone who cares a lot about whether other people like them and always wants others to approve of their actions. So essentially, it's caring more about what other people think and whether people like you than actually holding to your boundaries. It's when we seek validation from others at the cost of our own peace and at the cost of obedience to God. At the core of people pleasing is a misalignment of identity and obedience. So check out that previous episode. I'll leave the link in the show notes so that you can hear more of what I shared about the definition and the overview of people pleasing. So people pleasing, when we people please, we're actually sacrificing our peace so that we can avoid discomfort. We don't want the other person to be upset. We don't want to have a hard conversation, and we don't want to let others down. And so you have to learn to hold your boundaries to overcome people pleasing. And that's hard. It's easier said than done. It's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is hard. And trust me, the more burned out you are, the more overwhelmed you feel, the more stress you feel. The reality is that it's harder to hold your boundaries. So when you're feeling drained, when you're feeling scattered, when you're feeling disconnected from God and from yourself, you say yes to things that you really don't have the capacity for. And so you want to create that peace that comes from sticking to your boundaries. And really, that peace comes from clarity. That peace comes from not so much doing everything right or doing everything that others want you to do, but it comes from clarity around your goals, around your values, around your boundaries. So during the holidays, like I said, we're all running in a thousand different directions. We have a lot going on. So you have your everyday life, but you also have that added um, responsibility or pressure of the things that come with the holidays. The holidays is a time when we can get stressed and stretched thin because you're thinking about your holiday gatherings, you're thinking about seeing more family and friends. This can be a time that produces anxiety and even fear for a lot of people because you're going into the holidays dreading some of the questions you may get. You're dreading some of the conversations you may have, some of the people you may see at some of your gatherings, whether it's with friends or family. So I wanted to talk in today's episode about some practical ways that you can guard and protect your peace during the holidays, whether it is Thanksgiving time, whether it's Christmas time, or any time that is, a holiday type of season. So the first one is to determine your boundaries ahead of time. Whenever you have to make certain last minute decisions, it always tends to favor other people's needs and not yours. So as you walk into the holiday season, just take a few minutes to determine what your boundaries will be ahead of time. So you may have your general boundaries. That's great. If you have, a set list or, some themes that you have for your boundaries, revisit them before you head into the holiday season. But I also want you to think about, what other types of boundaries do you need to set pertaining to the holidays? So it may be, something like if someone asks you a particular question that you just don't want to be asked, you decide, how you're going to respond. You're going to just say no or yes, or you're just going to say, I don't want to talk about that right now. Whatever it is, just determine your boundary. If you're going into the holiday season and your schedule is already packed, determine that you'll say no to any new um, uh, appointment or request on your time. And maybe it's not even saying a flat out no. Maybe it's saying, yes, I'd like to do that, but let's schedule this for after the holidays. So determine whatever you think your boundary should be, so that when the situations come up, when you're in those possibly awkward conversations, it's easier to handle because you already know ahead of time. You've predetermined what you want to say. You've already predetermined what your capacity is, what your schedule is, where you want to place your energy. So it's easier for you to be able to respond to certain questions or conversations when you gather with friends and family. Number two is reimagine what your holiday could look like. We have the image of what the holiday should be, gathering with friends or gathering with family, gathering with the ones you love, and that's all well and good. But, it's okay if that's actually not what you want to do for your holidays. It's okay if you want to do something different but meaningful to you. I'll share my example. Last year, for Thanksgiving, I determined that I wanted to stay at home and just to have it be a quiet Thanksgiving. I didn't want to have to do a lot that day. I even ordered ahead of time most of the meals. So all I would have to do was just very simple prep or just some sides. And it was like the best Thanksgiving ever. Not that I didn't appreciate and enjoy the ones I've had previously with family and friends, but this was just a different experience, and I really enjoyed it. So this year, I determined that that was what I was going to do again, and so we just stayed at home and kept it simple. And I did a similar thing, and I just started calling it my soft Thanksgiving. I didn't want to have to deal with long drives, traveling, planes. I just didn't want to have to deal with all of that. And so that is now how I have reimagined my Thanksgiving. Will it be like this forever? I don't know. Maybe in a couple of years I'll switch it back up. But for now, I want to have that soft Thanksgiving where I'm not dealing with traffic. I'm not dealing with airports. I'm not dealing with, a lot of things. It's just a simple meal at home. And then afterwards, watching a movie or, just playing games or whatever it is. And so I encourage you to reimagine what your holidays should look like, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. Maybe it's a new tradition you want to start. Maybe it's not. It doesn't. And again, it doesn't have to be spending time by yourself. It could be you can reimagine how you interact when you go to your family's house or when folks come to your house. So, but give yourself the freedom to actually dream and think about, what does my ideal holiday look like? And then begin to take steps to move towards that. And that, again, that's one great way to protect your peace is to actually just be in the situation that you want to be in. The third one is to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. No one likes to be uncomfortable. No one goes out of their way to be uncomfortable. But sometimes being uncomfortable is good and can be beneficial. So get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and by that I mean really sticking to your boundaries. Whenever you hold firm to your boundaries, there's going to be some discomfort, but that also comes with a level of freedom. So if you can survive someone giving you an eye roll or a deep sigh, you can survive a boundary. Really, people tend to not like when you hold firm to your boundary. And it doesn't have to be disrespectful, it doesn't have to be hurtful. But in that moment, you may not be agreeing to what they want or giving them what they want, and that's okay. So be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Get comfortable with having to have, an awkward conversation. But guess what? It'll be over and it'll be fine and everyone will live. So the third point is just to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable because as you hold your boundaries, there will be a little discomfort. And two, sometimes the discomfort doesn't necessarily have to come from the other person. You may just feel a level of discomfort within because you're not used to holding firm to your boundaries. And that's okay. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will feel. The fourth one I wanted to share, the fourth tip is really to predetermine some moments in time where you'll have time to decompress or have time for yourself. So think about what are some tiny reset moments that you can have throughout the holidays, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time with your family and friends and, just being on the go all the time. Maybe it's 10 minutes alone here and there as you gather. It's, just stealing away and going to a room where you can just really spend 10 minutes by yourself. Maybe it's, just saying a quiet prayer. You can even be in the midst of a group of people and just really quiet your mind and, say a prayer. Or maybe it's going for a walk as folks are gathered, or depending on the circumstance, maybe it's just going out for a brief walk. You don't have to go walking for miles. Maybe it's just a quick 10-15 minute walk to get some fresh air, just to think and just to really reconnect back with God and with yourself. And, think of this, as a way of just soul care and soul maintenance. We don't have to always be on. We don't always have to be engaged. It's okay to, step aside and take a moment. I know as an introvert, as much as I love being around people, I just like to retreat and just have a moment to myself. So think about, as you look at your schedule for the holidays, think about some ways and predetermine. That's the key. It's to decide ahead of time, what you're going to use as your decompression moments, whether it's going to be you're going to go for a walk, you're going to, spend a few extra minutes in the bathroom and take a prayer, or just to be alone. But the key here is just to determine ahead of time how you're going to have some small moments and pockets of time to reconnect, to breathe, just to have some time with yourself. The fifth tip I want to share is to actually stick to your values. Your values will help you protect your peace faster than any other tactic or strategy can. When you know your values, when you understand your core values and understand why you have those core values, it'll be easier to stick to them. And so when you put your values in action, it actually helps with decision making, and it helps you be able to determine how you want to approach certain things. I know for myself, for years, I knew what my core values were, but I never actually implemented them. They were just great looking on paper. But as you walk out and live out your core values, that it helps you because as you say no to things or yes to things, and it aligns with your values, there's that great sense of peace that in knowing that you're aligned with your values and what God has called you to do. And the last tip I want to share is to let go of the small stuff. Let the small stuff go. It's not about winning December per se, or about making sure you do the most of anything, or you don't need to be the winner at everything. So as small things come up, and small is relative, because what's small to you may not be small to me. What's a big deal to me may not be a big deal to you. But what you consider to be the small stuff for you. And so, I just encourage you to, if it's something small, if it's not something you need to really go, just go all out for, just let it go. Let it, as they would say, just let it flow off of your back and move on. No need to make everything be a big deal, because everything is not a big deal. If it's not a deal breaker, if it's a small thing, just let it go. So I'm just gonna recap the six tips that I mentioned, just to make sure you caught them. So the first one was to determine your boundaries ahead of time. The second one is to reimagine what your holiday could look like and what you want it to look like. And I encourage you to have fun with that one. Reimagine your holidays. The third one is to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Fourth is to predetermine some decompression moments or times where you can spend resetting and spending by yourself. Fifth is stick to your core values. That'll help you a lot. And the sixth is to let the small stuff go. Don't sweat the small stuff. I hope those tips will be helpful for you and will help you to be able to overcome people pleasing during this holiday season. You know, the holiday time is, like I said at the top of the episode, it's a time of, just high energy. It's a time of reconnection with friends, with family. It's a time of tradition. It's a time of really joy and peace and happiness. I do understand and I'm mindful that for some folks, this may not be as joyous and happy because of, circumstances or sad events that may have happened around this time. But in general, um, this is a great time to reconnect and to reconnect with God and just to reflect on the things ahead. And as we, wrap up the new year and begin to think about we wrap up the old year and begin to think about a new year. One of the things that stresses people out over the holidays is actually thinking about the new year. So you're at this point in time, you're sort of maintaining your daily life. You're you have all of the stuff from the holidays piled on, the gift getting, the gathering, the logistics. And then in the back of your mind, you're beginning to think about, oh no, a new year is coming. I gotta get prepared. We're trying to close out this year. We're trying to reflect, and we want to go into the new year ready and clear on our goals and priorities. And so, if you're craving clarity before the year ends, which I know a lot of us do, I wanted to share that I am hosting something on December 16th called Refocus, the 2026 planning workshop. And it's going to be 2 hours to help you get clear on your top goals for 2026 and to put them into one simple plan. My goal is for us to spend 2 hours together, just prayerfully thinking about 2026 and have you walk out of that 2 hours with a one-page plan for 2026. So I'll leave the link in the show notes for the workshop if you're interested and want to sign up. This will be your opportunity to get your 2026 planned and out of the way before you even get to Christmas. So you can take your New Year planning off your plate and not have to worry about that and just spend time enjoying your loved ones. So I hope these tips for how to protect your peace during the holidays was helpful for you. If this episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, to share it with someone who needs encouragement or who needs to protect their peace during the holidays. And definitely leave a comment if this resonated with you. As you think about the 6 tips, just leave a comment and let me know which tip you're going to put into place this holiday season. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, I encourage you to stay refreshed and stay rooted. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.